Good evening, guys. Welcome to this week's episode of Chewing the Fat with the new fandangled intros. Still rocking away. I hope everyone enjoyed that. Welcome, Dean.
Hey, mate.
Thanks for joining me. This week we're going to go into the difference this protocol is and what it isn't compared to everything else that's out there. And what you deal with on a call by call basis with, the people who are calling up and saying, I want some of that. Tell me what I have to do. And I mean, I've dealt with it a lot as well. As soon as I started and the pictures went up, there was people going, just tell me what to do.
Yeah. People have been contacting you left, right, and center, right? How do you deal with that? What do you do?
I just pass them to you.
Yeah.
Well, and partly because you could spend the next hour messaging someone about it, and partly that's not all there is to it. There's not just here's what to do. There's a lot more in it that they can get more of an idea of on a call. When they call you or message you and they go into the hows, what's, whys, that they're doing it to start with, that gives them more of an idea about what it is anyway and how it is different. So let's have a look at that. How's it different to everything else that's out there? Because I think we've already gone into that any diet, if you follow it to the letter, will lose weight anyway. So, why
Look, fundamentally, yeah. Fundamentally, for people who just want to lose weight, sure, you just eat less calories, right? Or you want to create a calorie deficit, and sometimes that can be accomplished by excessive amounts of exercise, and obviously more powerful if you combine it by eating less. But people know this already, and it makes no difference. So what's missing in the way in which people approach their health that's actually going to make the difference? So what's different with the simpler health protocol and this method? There's many kind of trendy methodologies out there. There's this is also a very highly ketogenic diet. Now, all that means is you're utilizing your fat stores. Look, putting the body into ketosis is no big deal. There's a lot of hoo-ha around. It's really hard to A, get into ketosis, and B, sustain it. And is it really that healthy? And we have that metabolic flexibility in our bodies anyway. So it is a natural state. It's got nothing to do with high fat intake, by the way.
Right.
Now high fat intake, that kind of got stuck in the ether somehow because some neurologists put some children on a ketogenic diet, and they bulked up the calories with fat because they're children. They're still growing. You don't want to put them on a calorie restricted protocol. And this was for the purpose of decreasing the excitotoxic nature of glucose, because glucose stimulates the brain, right? So with these epileptic kids, they wanted to minimize that. Kind of got stuck in the ether that's the ketogenic diet.
Yeah, right.
And there is some value to it. It's just not what this is. So I restrict both carbohydrates and fat because that enables me to create a sufficient calorie deficit. So you get the benefits of the ketosis and all of that sort of stuff. The ketones are just a byproduct. What really matters is the metabolic reprogramming, enzymatic restructuring happens intracellularly. So there's a switch that happens in how the body actually manages, processes, generates energy. Okay. So all of that happens in the body. Well, there's some benefits to the Mediterranean diet as well. And there's benefits to, whole foods, and people ought to eat whole foods. Well, this is primarily a whole foods diet based around the Mediterranean diet. But what about intermittent fasting? Well, you get the immune regenerative effects of intermittent fasting in this protocol as well. but you need a coach. Well, you get a coach as well. But isn't a diet dangerous? You need medical supervision. You'll have a clinical advisory team as well. This is a medically designed protocol. How do you get adequate nutrition whilst keeping the calories down so low? Yeah, well, these days we've got great supplements and great protein products that enables us to do that. And I educate people in how to select those products and how to best use them as well. What else? Then there's the human being that's sticking the food in their face or not. And there's all the stories and the points of view and nobody comes to this approach empty, like as a blank canvas. There's a lot to this protocol that people need to learn over a period of time. But no one comes empty. Everyone's already filled up with so much of what they think they know, what they've heard before, what they've read before, what they've tried before. So it's genius when people would come to you and you just said, call Dean, right? Because then I could schedule.
There was no genius about it.
No, but no, it is, because the general pull for people is to try and explain stuff to people.
Yeah.
And you're trying to speak into an already full vessel. It's really difficult. So
I think I noticed that the first couple of times, I'd go into a little bit and they go, oh yeah, I've done, like there was an already waiting answer to hear something that they'd already known about. And as soon as they heard that word, it triggered the bang. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sweet. I've done that before. No, you haven't.
Yeah. I know this. Oh, that's just like, I've tried before, all this sort of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And
so really, that's not the point. That's not the point anyway. I think that's the critical thing. It doesn't matter what you tried. We could use any, there was a donut diet at one stage where they found people lost weight just eating donuts.
Yes.
So that's not the critical part of this protocol. That I don't think that explains why people lose the weight they do in the time they do and keep it off.
Yeah. Look, there's a particular commitment that people generate. I have people fill in first they talk to me, so we've got to schedule that. They've got to deal with me in a conversation. That's not always easy. But then I have them fill in a form, and that's often confronting for people because it has them deal with where they're actually at now. You've got to start where you're at. Not where you think you should be or where you once were and you're trying to get back to something from the past. The past is the past. You got to let that be. You got to deal with where you're at. And this can be really confronting. It's like, list who are your primary care practitioners and any specialists that look after you. People like, I don't even have a GP.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even saying that you have to, but, people start to go, wow, no wonder this is an area where I have a loss of power. And I don't have the sufficient support around me handling what I need to handle, right? And then there's the facade and the pretense of, I do everything for everybody else. I prioritize everything and everyone else, and I'm not kind to myself. And it's like, cut the crap. You can't honestly generate the kind of love and respect you think you're doing for everyone else if you're not providing that for yourself. Now, what have you tried in the past? Okay, what worked about all that stuff? Blah, blah, blah. What didn't work? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, what's the problem? Why don't you just go do that stuff that worked?
Yeah.
And fundamentally, people just don't trust themselves. Right? There's a real level of distrust. Like they're not good for their word, at least in this area of their health. So often I get related to as an accountability structure. Like, I'm going to hold people account for doing it and blah, blah, blah. It's just not what I do. Yes, there's a particular design to it. You want to learn the design. You want to get curious about the design. And as you're doing that, and as you're on the protocol, people start to discover, why am I getting people to eat this stuff and not that stuff? And why does it have to be done this way? And you start to really learn as you're doing it. It's kind of like the Karate Kid,
Yeah.
you know, with Mr. Miyagi. And he just painted the fence and sanded the deck, and sure, did it begrudgingly, but he did it. That's the key thing. You want to ask yourself, it's like, man, if I was in Daniel LaRusso's shoes, was that his name? The Cobra Kai, it's all back. Everyone's like getting excited.
Great. I love it.
Yeah, I can see the smile on your face.
Funny.
So, but you got to ask yourself, man, if you were in Daniel's shoes, sanding the deck and washing the cars and painting the fence, when would you have quit?
Mm.
When would you have quit? And he didn't quit. He just did it. He took the actions, and there was a performance to it. And then at some point, he discovered for himself he'd learned karate.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what this journey is like. You're kind of on it. You have to, you know, take this at this time and, you know, eat 3 hours apart, and you got to bulk out your meal with some extra vegetable matter. And it's a lot of food. I mean, which is surprising to a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's amazing how tiny things can affect the result just that week. You know, I spoke to someone the other day, and they were saying, you know, they had an extra, whatever they had at night, they had more of what they were supposed to have, and and probably some more vegetables than they had. And when they sent me because I get lots of people to update me on what they're doing as well. And when they sent me that week's progress, it was like halved to what it normally was. And it's just, and I mean, it was the same when I was on it. You know, I remember speaking to you and going, okay, you have to go back now and get particular with everything you're eating and see what's changed. And on the surface, there was nothing, but on closer inspection, there was a couple of things that I dismissed as that's not going to make any difference. And again, I had the same thing the other day. Someone said to me, oh, look, can I have a couple of beers? And I remembered you saying at the time, I said, no, you can't do that, dude. There's no, don't do that. Because once you do that, it opens the door for this, that, and the other. And then I remembered you saying to me at some stage along the way as to the why you couldn't drink alcohol. And it wasn't about whether you're going to put on weight that week or not. Can you explain a bit about that? Why can't you drink alcohol on the protocol in the first phase?
Yeah, because you're not eating carbohydrates. So we've restricted carbohydrates, obviously, to put the body into ketosis.
Mm.
So there are a couple of key tissues that do require glucose. Your brain is one, right? Erythrocytes, or your red blood cells, and also your adrenal medulla, adrenal glands. So they need glucose to function, but you don't need to consume carbohydrates because there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. Yeah. What the body will do in the absence of ingesting carbohydrates, your liver and your kidneys will start producing glucose out of the proteins that you're consuming. So the proteins get broken down. It'll utilize the amino acids, which are the constituent components of protein, mm-hmm. and it'll convert them to glucose. So that process is called gluconeogenesis. So genesis, the bringing forth of, neo, something new. What new? Glucose, new glucose. So that's required to provide the brain with that certain amount of glucose that it needs to function. Alcohol inhibits gluconeogenesis. Mm. So if you're in a high degree of ketosis and then you consume alcohol, you run the risk of not providing enough fuel, glucose, to your brain. And, you know, big men can drink half a glass of wine and just pass out.
Yeah, right.
Like, so it's very dangerous. So it's not about the weight gain or anything like that. It's for people's health and safety. Yeah. And this is what irks me when people say, oh, keto-friendly alcoholic beverages, and just because it's got no carbs in it or what. It's like, guys, there's no such thing. It's so damn dangerous. Just don't do it. Don't.
And that's what that's what you wouldn't realize. I mean, I hope someone, you know, on any diet that's out there at the moment, if you are losing weight at the moment, that's something to be mindful of, because lots of people look at it that way. As to, it's not going to, if I drink gin, there's no, there's hardly any calories in it, and I'll just have it in soda water or a, artificially sweetened lemon, lime, and bitters drink or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's just not the point, It's actually dangerous
Look,
too.
I've known people who were encouraged to reach out and contact me, and then for whatever reason they didn't engage to participate in the coaching program, and then at some point they kind of got a gist of something in the ballpark of what I do and tried to do it themselves, and restricted carbohydrates, put themselves into a state of ketosis, yet didn't manage the required amount of micronutrients that the body needs and the cells need to function optimally. And then they can also continue to consume alcohol. And one of them, it was a couple, a husband comes home and finds his partner dead on the lounge room floor.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, look, people are already at risk. If you're in a state of metabolic dysfunction, you're already putting yourself at risk. And this is what, I want people to take seriously. It's like, this isn't a matter to take lightly and just think, oh, I'll try this diet or that diet. It's like, no, get more committed rather than a diet or trying to give the appearance that you're doing something that you should because that's what's expected of you. Or no, get committed to your health, get committed to your future, not to some diet, not to being right about some point of view, whether it's me or go speak to your doctor and actually get committed to creating a plan and get these things handled. And you want to do it with someone who knows what they're talking about, right? You can't just take bits and pieces from several sources that you read about. I mean, it's insanity when people ring me up and go, well, explain it to me. What am I going to do? Like, just gift you 30 years worth of, experience and study and expertise in a 5-minute conversation so you can decide whether or not it's for you.
Yeah.
Here's if you're out of whack, if you're in a state of metabolic derangement, you're overweight, obese, you've got some symptoms of metabolic syndrome, if you can't think properly, you don't sleep properly, if you're on these kinds of medications for chronic disease, whatever, anything's for you. Do something.
Yeah.
Just do something. Start with stop eating the stuff that you ought not to eat. And tell everyone around you what you're doing and why. And put yourself on the hook. Box yourself in. Food's one of these, if there is such a thing as food addiction, I don't know. It's a difficult one because you can't take the substance away from people like you can with drugs and alcohol, for example. You got to eat, right? But, I wouldn't consider myself a food addict or a carbaholic or addicted to sugar or anything. Yet I still don't have all that stuff in my house. I don't have those foods in my fridge or my pantry. I just don't buy them.
Yeah.
I don't have an extra fridge full of beer and all that. I have a small bar fridge with, my resveratrol enhanced wine. That's it. I don't fill it with crap wine just for the sake of having wine. That's for health and longevity purposes. And I enjoy a glass of wine, right? But, we've got to be responsible for the human body is, it's a real gift to have one, and it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the people who care about us. It belongs to our kids. It belongs to the communities we serve. It belongs to the commitments that we're creating in the world. This is a borrowed thing, and when people get it like that, you gotta look after this thing. You wouldn't abuse it. So, there's so much to what the protocol is. There's so much to our coaching that we bring to those conversations, and everyone's got a different flavor to their commitment as well. given what they're dealing with and what really matters to them. And, you know, it's kind of like people come to me, it's like, you know, how does it work? And I go, well, what are you dealing with?
Yeah.
And then what are you committed to accomplishing? You know,
And that's a
what do
massive
you want?
difference, because like, as you're saying, any diet, people can get the consensus of what you got to do, what you got to eat, and go on that, but it doesn't deal with anything else. And there's still the pull to go back to, or, you know, cheat on the diet or do whatever to where you got to in the first place, if you're not dealing with those things as well as just what you're eating.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Even
What's
just
been
the
missing?
creation, even just the creation to start actually has you really present to why you're doing it versus just, yeah, I'm going to lose some weight.
Mm,
That's just a different,
exactly.
that's a
Exactly.
totally different way to start a diet in the first place.
Yes. Yeah, context is decisive.
Mm.
Totally. So you got to have that. You got to generate the courage to commit, and then you want to leverage the science. You know, you want to invest yourself in understanding and learning, and it's like, you know, whatever worked in the past, it's great. You tell me what worked, I'll tell you why it worked. Tell me what didn't work, I'll tell you why it didn't work.
Mm.
And then you got to get straight about, where did you quit? What got uncomfortable? What did you use to explain not continuing? Or what did you complain about? Or all of that sort of stuff. You got to get straight about, well, it's not that, you know, that was too hard or that it didn't work for you. It's like you quit. Now, let's get sourceful about why you quit. What did you use to quit? What explanation, justification, all of that sort of stuff. And then you want to take advantage of the infrastructure that's available to you. You know, go speak to your doctor, get your blood work done. Tell your doctor. I mean, when people engage me, I say to them, you know, tell your doctor you're working with me, pass my details on to them. If they've got any questions, ask them to call me directly.
Mm.
You know, go get your blood work, leverage the pathology, you know, opportunities that we have, particularly in this country. A lot of people around the world don't have access to everything that we've got access to. We may as well take advantage of it and ensure that we actually do have the best health outcomes.
Mm.
And then finally, you got to act. There's, you know, people who have been overweight for a long time, they've been kicking the can down the road. It's like, I'm going to get to it. This year is the year. Every year, new year this is the one I'm going to handle my health and fitness. And this is never happens.
Yeah.
Or it's, you know, there's always some excuse, or, oh no, I've got to get the money in order. I get this one a lot. It's hilarious. I'll be talking to people and they'll say to me, oh yeah, I really want your help. And it's like, I'm here, you know how to contact me. When do you want to get started? Oh no, I've got to get the money in order. They don't even know how much it costs. They're not living in reality.
Yeah.
You know, and then when I tell them how much it costs, they're like, oh, it's not as much as I thought, right? So I could get started straight away. It's like, yeah, you just got to have a conversation. So where it all gets worked out is in communication, not people trying to resolve everything in their head first before they act.
Yeah.
That's what has people continue to do the same thing over and over, which is eat the wrong food and not do the kind of things that helps them get well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know, this is kind of like a long-winded way of somewhat sharing what's distinct about this. I don't know if there's anything new, or I think it's packaged together in a unique way. I think I use the term biophenomenological approach to weight management and health transformation. Biophenomenology it's a unique term that's rarely used in the medical realm, somewhat used in the area of dementia. But, you know, phenomenology, ontology, this kind of coaching makes an enormous difference when combined with the biological medical sciences. And there's a lot of education, and ultimately what you want is some real lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
But not by forcing people to change, but by rather taking people on a journey along which obviously everything corrects, you lose the weight, all that sort of stuff. But along the way, things start occurring differently to people. I mean, you experience this, right? You just see things differently.
And I see it with a lot of the other people that have contacted you and been on it and are now coming out the other side, you know, into phase 4 and all that sort of thing. As you're saying about the education as well, they learnt lots of stuff along the way. And when they start, it was interesting. When they start, there's like, how much willpower did it take? And then you never hear of that again.
Yeah. Ever. Yes.
There was, it just doesn't come into the equation now. As soon as they have the conversation and they're on board and they get that coaching call once a week, they just can't wait to keep going versus stopping myself from going to the fridge.
Yes.
Hugely.
Yeah, I got to rein people in every now and again, because I mean, and it's and I love it. I love that people kind of see the opportunity to contribute and expand this and gift it to others. And, you know, that's why I need, you know, you and other people to come up. It's like, you know, it's a lot for me to manage and handle. But at this point, I need to ensure that everything's done on point, and it doesn't just turn into, oh yeah, there's a diet. I mean, literally, it's one page. I could just write it up and give it to people. It's like, you know what? They won't do it though. And that information it's out there already.
Yeah.
You know, you could just do a PubMed search, read a few review papers, and kind of gather, oh yeah, you need to restrict calories. It's a good idea to restrict carbohydrates for a period of time. You know, do you do high fat, low fat? Well, if you're going to restrict calories, then I think low fat is a better option, because then it allows you to get the quality nutrition from the protein. Well, how do you get the protein? I mean, you do that logical thinking over time and it all starts to make sense. You get to the point where you look back and you think, you know, 20, 30 kilograms down, you go, why would anyone do anything differently? I mean, I'm exposed to all kinds of stuff all the time. I mean, I speak to world leading metabolic experts. I mean, if you look at the Simpler Health Advisory team, I've got world leading neurobiologists there. Kristen Willemere she's a phenomenon. I've got Antonio Civitarese. I mean, he was not that long ago head of global obesity, scientific director for global obesity for a large multinational pharmaceutical company. I mean, nobody knows this stuff better than him. Yeah. And he's a huge advocate of what I do and the way in which I go about it. And he's just, you know, that's why he's on board. And I get top professors here in Australia. I've got, you know, Joseph Maroon over in the US, who more than happy to give his name to what I'm up to. Now, people of that caliber and that level of genius wouldn't do that if, you know, this didn't make sense. You know, and it provides something that's been missing in the industry and for people for a long time. I think ultimately what really has been missing is a structure where it's safe for people to give. You got to imagine, if you let yourself go, like I said earlier, you stop trusting yourself. So there's got to be some kind of space that's safe enough for people to give their word again and actually experience accomplishing something, you know, being fulfilled and actually delivering on their word and experiencing what it's like to be victorious and producing the result. And it's week after week after week after week, and you're learning, you're expanding, it makes sense. And it's like you're on this upward trajectory in the learning curve. Things get exciting and then you want to know more and you feel better. And then what's also been missing in the industry is someone on the other side.
Yeah.
Who's holding themselves accountable for that specific outcome. Yeah. How do I hold myself accountable for the outcome? I don't market. I don't have, you know, slick sales techniques. I don't do all this online kind of inbound funnels. I just don't do all that.
Surely you can take your shirt off and walk around with a bloody camera held up here and going, you know what? It took me years of working out what foods to eat over 40 where I could just strip fat. I see those ads.
I tell you what I do share is I share outcomes. time and time again. Rarely do you see a photo of me saying, "Look at me," and
I don't think
you
it's.
know,
I don't even think that's marketing though. That's more, like I posted on the Simpler Health Facebook page today. It's hard to know who gets more out of the
I
results.
love it.
You know,
When people
whether the
when
people
people
are
send
getting the
me,
results or you.
yeah, when people send me those kind of things, it's amazing. It
Yeah.
just blows me away, and I love just that people go from wanting to have like a somewhat of a private transformation. I don't want anyone to know that I'm on this diet. And then
Mhm.
at some point, they're just like, they're so free. They
Yeah.
don't give a damn what people think.
Yeah.
They're healthy. They've lost the weight. They're energetic. They're like, damn it, like everyone ought to know. They're screaming from the rooftops. I don't have to do anything. Now, if I wasn't producing those outcomes, and they're not sharing it and screaming it from the rooftops and having people contact me, I
Mm,
shouldn't be in business. I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
exactly.
I'll go do something different.
Or
But
just open an online product store and just flog product in the promise of losing weight.
yeah, I don't know, all this stuff. Maybe there's value to it. I don't get it. Write an ebook and offer that for free and then do some videos, all this sort of stuff. I'm sure we should. I probably should do all that stuff. But right now, I just focus on the outcomes. Every single time someone's willing to, like I said, put their butt on the line, and put themselves at risk and put their health at issue,
Mm,
I'm going to honor that with everything that I've got. And all that matters to me is not that people start this process, but that people end it.
yeah.
And they end it victoriously and with a sense of themselves that they've never experienced before, and that they transform the outlook on their future. They're not worried about what kind of a burden am I going to be on my kids, or I'm already in this much pain. How am I going to sustain this for the next 20 years if I'm going to live that long? Or
Mm,
whatever it is that people are worried about, concerned about. I want to impact that.
cool.
So
All right. Well, that might do us. My voice is a bit. I had 3 gigs this week, so that's the first time that's happened in months since COVID lockdown. So I'm a bit croaky today. Um, Thanks for all that info, Dean. I hope you got a lot
pleasure.
out of that conversation, especially the alcohol part. If you're on any sort of a diet that's restricting carbs, be mindful of that. And any questions, as usual, put them in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in. Send us anything else you want to know about as well. Any questions you have about specific things like we did last week with the diabetes and
Yeah, give us some topics to talk about.
yeah,
If you want me to explain something, or that, throw stuff at me. There might be things that I just know nothing about. I'd love the opportunity to have to research it and then deliver it back to you guys and put it in a way that everyone will understand.
cool.
That'll be cool.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks, guys. See you next week.